Well, a Cuban sandwich, I get a little misty just thinking about it. It's so good. If you looked at the list of ingredients, you would think, that looks like a hot mess. But when you put it all together, it just makes so much sense.
So a Cuban sandwich is traditionally made on Cuban bread, and it has ham, roast pork, if you're in Tampa, salami, Swiss cheese, pickles, and mustard.
The bread is extraordinary because it almost looks like one of those cheap supermarket fake baguettes. But when you press it, you get this like super, it's a really faint crispy edge.
The bread should be crispy, but not tough. And then the interior should be soft, but not gummy.
And then you just sink right into that like juicy pork.
The roast pork is just so luxuriously silky, and it's just really enjoyable to eat. So now that we've picked all the recipes, I've put in all my orders for everything that I need, and I've come up with the chart that shows basically like the recipes that we picked. And I actually was hoping that I'd be a little further along. It's just a lot of work to get this thing like off the ground.
In this scenario, and in most scenarios, the cook, in this case Cecelia, will go into the kitchen and cook through 5 recipes that already exist in the world and see what she can learn from that.
I hate making trips, so I'm gonna take all of this at once. I know I don't like when those plastic things touch your face because they've been like all over everything, which is gross. Okay, so this is the first recipe from my 5 recipe test. So this is the pan de agua, which is a traditional Cuban style bread, but without any fat. When bread is done, I look for like that you can poke it and it'll spring back. That means you've worked the gluten enough. I'm gonna cover this with plastic, and it's going to proof for an hour until doubled. I think I'm most nervous about the bread because I've done a couple breads here, but bread isn't really in my wheelhouse. So first bread's in the oven. So I'm gonna keep making doughs, shaping and proofing, and then baking. This one is the pan de agua, so no fat. Oh, it's super chewy.
It's good.
Oh, two for two.
One of those little from the freezer baguettes.
Yeah. So this one had butter in it instead of lard. You just brush it with water before you put it in the oven. It was a really easy dough to work with.
It's not fluffy enough. It's a little too chewy on the inside.
It's pretty dry. Just leave it.
This is the only one here that actually looks right.
Yeah. So this has 3 tablespoons of lard.
That looks good.
That looks fluffy.
That should be that fluffy and cotton.
Yeah. This one had a sponge. And the drying method was really interesting. So once you've shaped it, you move it onto a rimmed baking sheet sprinkled with cornmeal.
Yep.
Then you sprinkle the loaves with flour to dry out the exterior. Put a dry kitchen towel over it. And then that was the one that I showed you. When you press it, you had a full skin that formed. You can actually, like, once you slash it, the skin like releases.
Yeah. I think this is the closest so far. I would like it a little bit crustier on the exterior.
Okay.
You know, but I think the way it like kind of breaks apart and like it's crumbs all over the place.
Okay.
'Cause I think it's a tasty bread.
We set a pretty high bar for the pork because, for one thing, we've braised and roasted a lot of pork in this house.
So the first pork test I think is really interesting because we very much expected a lot of them to be fantastic.
I think boneless pork shoulder is going to be the easiest to find in grocery stores. I feel like bone-in can be kind of hard sometimes. I don't know. I mean, maybe this one is promising. These are boneless short ribs. These might be good because they won't take as long. So just to recap, today we're doing the porks. We're tasting those, but then I also saved Mojo sauces for us to try.
Oh, so a
prior
portion.
to marinating.
Thank God. So these are the recipes, the bread recipes?
Yes, these are the 3 bread recipes that we wanted to look at. So 3, 4, and 5.
So I thought number 3, despite like some of the other opinions, was the most familiar to me.
Okay.
I know when it came out of the oven it was super crusty, but the inside was really what was like light and cottony.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything here? I mean, I know you had some room temperature lard. I mean, I kind of feel like it's fun to eat lard.
We go big or go home. I think we should do 4 tablespoons, and then I can zone in on that later.
Yeah.
Because most of them had 4 tablespoons of fat. Cool, I'll write this up now.
Great.
Okay, so I'm gonna take the last one of my 5 recipe tests out. Because
This
is
one's
that
burnt
one.
right here.
Just the bottom.
Should we see?
I'm following the recipe. They said to put it in there with the marinade, but
Want to pull it out? Sure. See how, I think it's good. In some countries, that's all they eat is the burnt, bitter bottoms of pots. Well, I think you cut it just
we can
no.
eat around it. It's not gonna.
No, that's all I'm gonna eat is just
Okay.
the black stuff.
Great.
I think it's the lime juice. Wasn't that marinated?
Yeah, it was 2 cups of lime juice overnight.
I think it's a lot.
So I don't know. I feel like I'll start with.
Start with number 1.
So it's a boneless pork butt. It was like 7 pounds.
It's so dry.
Yeah. This one is also a boneless pork butt, marinated in sour orange juice
One
and
side
garlic.
of it is drier than hell, and the other side's kind of nice and moist. Look how dry this side is, though. I think the marinade is just such a bad idea.
Well, this is going well. This is a ham, bone-in.
Well, I mean, at least it's dry.
It is traditional to have a Mojo marinade for Cuban roast pork. So that is a marinade with a lot of acid. And what I kept finding consistently was that that acid was drawing out moisture.
It's a little terrible.
Yeah, all pretty disappointing.
Oh, that's good. No?
There's only one way to go up. I mean, there's only one way to go.
There's only
which
one
is
down.
up.
Which way to go? I think all these have so much acid that they're drying the meat out. And
Yeah.
they're just chalky. I feel like these are all terrible, but I think that's a great thing because we now know it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And we just go up from here.
These were all kind of disappointing. Yeah, honestly, just kind of pooped. So.
We're in the business of constantly critiquing each other's food, and you have to be able to kind of let it roll off your back and just take it in stride.
You kind of have to be okay with knowing that you're gonna go home and not know the answer to this puzzle that you're working on. And you have to kind of know that, like, the next day you'll figure it out.
You know, there's no victory worth having if you didn't have to work for it a little bit. But the great thing about Cecelia is she's willing to go into that kaleidoscope because she likes to find her way back out. If you can go into that mess and get back out cleanly, you really have something special.
We're going on like 4.5 hours now, so it's just kind of annoying at this point. This one was the no oil one. Maybe I need to do that over again. Have you ever had Pyrex explode on you before? I nicked it here, and it just went everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little more where we want it.
It's really balanced.
Yeah. Like, I know when a recipe's on a good track when you like have people try it and everyone kind of like, you're like, oh whoa, we're on something.